9 hikers, 1 mountain, no survivors. What killed them was never agreed upon. Deep in the icy wilderness of Russia's Ural Mountains, it was the winter of 1959. A group of 10 seasoned hikers, led by Igor Dyatlov, set out to conquer Mount Otorten. Their plan? Reach the peak and return to base camp within 2 weeks. But fate had other plans. On the day of the climb, one member, Yuri Yudin, fell ill with a fever and was forced to turn back. The remaining 9 pressed on, unaware that they were walking into a legend of fear and mystery. By day 5, a brutal snowstorm swept through the mountains. Yuri, now safe below, grew worried and radioed the team. He received a reassuring reply from the group leader, but that was the last time anyone would hear from them. A search team was dispatched. What they discovered defied explanation. 5 bodies were found first, scattered, half-dressed, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. The remaining 4 were located later. 3 showed devastating trauma, shattered skulls, crushed ribs. 1 corpse was missing its tongue and eyes. In temperatures plunging to -15 to -20 degrees Celsius, why were they half naked? What ripped out a man's tongue and eyes? And why was radioactive material found on some of their clothes? Nearby trees were scorched as if by fire. The Soviet government called it a death by avalanche, but the evidence told another story. The injuries were comparable to a car crash, yet there were no signs of struggle, no footprints, no enemies. Some believed it wasn't human. Lead investigator Lev Ivanov himself admitted, this case defies logic. Perhaps it was a UFO. But there are rational explanations, at least partially. The phenomenon of paradoxical undressing could explain their lack of clothing. In late-stage hypothermia, the brain malfunctions, creating the illusion of overheating. Victims often strip in confusion. The missing tongue and eyes? His body was found 3 months later, already mummified. Experts say decay-prone organs like the tongue and eyes may have simply decomposed. And the radioactive traces? One hiker had worked in the nuclear industry. The mystery seemed to fade. But questions remain. How could 9 experienced hikers die in total confusion without a single survivor? Some suggest they were hallucinating, driven mad by poisonous herbs found near the campfire. Others claim they were attacked by native tribes, but most rescuers were native themselves, and the extreme physical trauma? Still unexplained. One theory stood out. From the only man who survived because he turned back, Yuri Yudin, the hiker who left the expedition due to illness, later made a chilling claim. The tragedy, he said, was caused by a secret Soviet weapons test. He pleaded for the government to reopen the case, but it was the height of the Cold War, and with no solid evidence. His voice was silenced. The most compelling theory to emerge was one involving infrasound. Not sound you can hear, but low-frequency vibrations that shake your inner ear, triggering unease, paranoia, and panic. It's the same frequency found in tsunamis and earthquakes, and some scientists believe it explains how animals sense disaster before it strikes. Could it be that the roar of wind or shifting snow created infrasound, and that this invisible force drove the hikers, already on edge in the hostile wilderness, into a blind panic? They slashed open their own tent and fled into the cold, not from a real threat, but from a terror their minds couldn't explain. Here's where things get disturbing. What if the infrasound wasn't a force of nature, but a weapon being tested? A Soviet infrasound weapon test, powerful enough to shatter the nerves of even elite mountaineers? A botched experiment, followed by silence and denial. Suddenly, everything makes sense. Yudin's ignored pleas, the government's secrecy, and the fear carved into the frozen faces of the dead. In 2019, the Russian government reopened the case, this time with international scientists. Computer simulations and Swiss avalanche models concluded a rare slab avalanche caused the hikers' deaths. Case closed. But something doesn't sit right. A piece still doesn't fit. A final fragment of truth missing. This isn't the end. It's just the next question. This is Forbidden Atlas. Subscribe and follow the shadows.